Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to The Edge for Thursday, March 21st, 2024. I am Devonne Cornelius. Joining me in studio today is Mr. Austin Edinburgh, Special Advisor in the Prime Minister's Office. And today we will focus the conversation on the IMF report, the HDR report, among other things. Mr. Edinburgh, thank you for joining me on the program for today. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good, Devon. Good morning to all of your listening and viewing audience, and it's a pleasure to be back here with you again. And it's busy, but I'm always happy to do my best.
Awesome. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're here to speak on the IMF report, what it says in relation to St. Kitts and Nevis, in terms of the economic outlook, and we're here to speak on the HDR report recently released. And so I am going to allow you to take us there, and we'll conversate.
Yes, and let me just say as well that there are two other matters that I will touch on. There's a historical and political aspect of the free movement of people, because there is politics in it, and if you don't address it, people might just think that what has been propagated is the truth. And while Ambassador Vaughan is the spokesman, and that the technical aspects of it, which I will not get into, that's his thing. It is important to address the issues that are being propagated, or non-issues rather, that are being propagated. I will also have a few things to say with respect to the CBI and what the EU said in a recent report. And maybe that's where I'll start, because that one would be pretty short. It says, under the European Union visa-free scheme, may lose their rights, that is a set of countries may lose their rights to the visa-free access if their country does not meet the new rules of EU. So they're putting some new rules in place, and they're targeting the citizenship by investment, and particular the citizenship by investment from the Caribbean. They may have other reasons for targeting, but we must respect their rights to determine who enters their space. St. Kitts and Nevis as a government and CARICOM as a region has the right to determine who we allow access to from outside of the space to enter. And so since the citizenship by investment program is predicated on persons having visa-free access to some countries, any threat to that exposes the vulnerability of the CBI program. It is always a vulnerable aspect, even more vulnerable than tourism, because it would take something really heinous to prevent people, happening internally, to prevent people from coming in. And so internally you would have to contribute to that atmospheric condition. This, however, can be seriously adversely affected just by the decision of an external factor, such as the EU. But even in the new scheme of things, in terms of the Caribbean countries or the Caribbean territories that have the CBI, I would believe that St. Kitts and Nevis stands above the rest. Because even though St. Kitts and Nevis is listed along the golden passport scheme that they speak of in their narrative, including all of the islands in the Caribbean that has it, when it comes to speaking about the cost, St. Kitts and Nevis is excluded, and Grenada. When they talk about the cost, which merely cost about 100,000, it is Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, and St. Lucia that's mentioned. And if they go to the extent of mentioning the cost of the program for as little as 100,000 US, you can see where their focus is on. By the way, when this St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration came into office, you could have gotten into our program for the same $100,000 for a family of 4. And so, because of the improvement that has been made by this administration to the CBI, we are not faring as badly. As a matter of fact, Dominica lost visa-free access to the UK. And had St. Kitts and Nevis not addressed the program and the security around the program when this administration took office, we would have lost, in my opinion, we would have lost visa-free access as well to the UK. But it's a double whammy on any government where that is concerned, because it is not just the persons who are seeking a third passport that will be affected. It is the natural-born citizens that would also be affected. And so I want to commend the Prime Minister, Dr. Terence, to lead heavily on improving the status. And he did not get an easy time doing it, because some of the service providers, in cahoots with the former Prime Minister, had a lot to say about what he was doing, and said that he was accused of killing the program, killing St. Kitts and Nevis program, because he's making it more difficult and more expensive. And that is what saved our visa-free access to the UK. And by the way, for 7 years, after promising that they were going to bring back visa-free access to Canada, nothing was changed. And I dare say, because I was in the campaign all around that time, that the kind of scrutiny, and I'm talking about bad scrutiny, that was brought to our program was on the account of, and I'm going to call him Mark Brantley, Timothy Harris, and Sean Richards. And they calling our program then a slush fund and accuse it of the worst things. And it caused the outside world to look at it. But when they went in, the outside world deemed that they were doing worse, because they had removed the legal structure from around it. And so that is why Canada didn't move. Since this new administration is in place, the conditions, even though you would still need pre-approval,
yes,
the conditions have been made lighter. And so you do not have to travel to Trinidad and Tobago to get a physical visa in your passport. That was brought about because of the changes, the same changes that they were critical of, that this Prime Minister put with his cabinet.
So basically, there is a focus on ensuring there is due diligence,
yes,
thorough checks, background checks, and this is what the EU has been calling for.
Yeah, because the EU wants, the EU believe, and they have expressed, that if you're going to make it that easy and that quickly, that you are likely to miss activity of persons who you're granting the passport to, or the citizenship to, because that's what we grant them. But let us be real, Most of the people are only getting into it because they want a third passport. There were those who would get into it for business, and they will always come regardless, because they're going to set up business here, which means they're going to reside here, etc., etc. Those would always be on a different level. But because our economy had become that dependent on the CBI, if we didn't do anything, we would have been in a far worse place economically. We are in a good place. And we're in a good place because the IMF recognized that. And so the report for 2024, reviewing the period of 2023, states, and I would start from the Washington, D.C. An IMF mission led by Mr. Alexandre Shiloh visited St. Kitts and Nevis during February 15 to 26, 2024, for the 2024 Article 4 consultation, discussions on economic development and macroeconomic policies. The mission team benefited from candid and constructive discussions with public and private sector counterparts and other stakeholders, and issued the following statement. It's important to note that this is not just sitting down with the government. It's a broad-based consultation, and they meet with who they want, and they listen, and they observe, and they also examine the figures before they determine what their report would be. It says St. Kitts and Nevis continues to recover from the pandemic and cost of living crisis. The general fiscal prudence and the general public. Government has ended 2023 with a surplus. Those words are important. Thanks to the fiscal prudence, that's the first thing, and the outperformance of the Citizenship by Investment program, the outlook is positive, particularly as large-scale renewable energy projects begin to be implemented. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they're going to, well, I'm not, that's politics. I'm not upset with them. They're giving the impression as if everything that is positive coming out of the reports now is as a result of what they did. Well, let us look at these things. The reason why the CBI is still as strong as it is because of the changes made under this administration. If we look around, you will see that most of the islands, their CBI are weaker. And why the CBI program would be weaker? Because they have not met the standard that the countries to which their citizens have visa-free access is comfortable with. That's number one. But he went on to say that, I want to read it, thanks to the fiscal prudence. That's the first thing it mentioned, the fiscal prudence. And this is not because the government said we are fiscal. That is because they have examined the atmosphere, they have looked at the figures, and they have seen fiscal prudence. And they have listed that as the first contributor to our present situation. And they're speaking now about renewable energy. We all know that, yes, and I would give them that the original agreement for the solar plant was negotiated by them. But what gives the weight is the geothermal. And they know what that would mean once that is fully developed. And that is what gives them the positive outlook. It goes on to say, nonetheless, there are still important downside risks. And I'm reading that because some people might think that I would leave that out. But no, because there are risks ahead, potentially from a less hospitable external environment. There are natural disasters or CBI underperformance. And I spoke about the EU and the fact that it has nothing to do with internal, but external. That will damage that. It has nothing to do with crime nor anything like that. It has nothing to do with corrupt practices. It has to do with if an external force decides, no, we don't want certain persons and you're allowing them, and so we are going to stop visa-free access. The people will move away. Those who are coming in for that purpose will move away.
And they go elsewhere.
And they go elsewhere. And so that's why it is such a balancing act. And the Prime Minister has indicated that he is diversifying the economy. He has moved the economy to a state where it is not as dependent on the CBI inflows as it was. And he's going to take it further into that direction. Because if we don't, we will either be at the mercies of the countries or the people who want it. Our economy can't continue like that. And that's what he has said. And hence, he has undertaken major decisions towards the investment in green energy. We only have to look around the world. Saudi Arabia was nothing until oil. Read history and you will see. Saudi Arabia was nothing until oil. Now it is one of the most powerful countries in the world because of energy. And if we can produce and supply energy, not just produce it,
but supply.
But supply. If we can produce and supply energy, I mean, you'll see how our economy will just explode.
And I think there are talks as it relates to geothermal in St. Kitts and Nevis. There are talks of possibly supplying neighboring islands
Yes.
with energy from our geothermal.
Yes.
And so with that, you could only imagine what the benefits of that would be in terms of the financial benefits.
Exactly.
And as you know, St. Kitts and Nevis has been focusing a lot on climate resilience and climate action. And so you see the benefit in terms of climate change, climate action, and the benefit in terms of the economic performance of the country.
And let me tell you, you see this geothermal thing? We better get ourselves ready. We better get ourselves ready. And this is going, I would bring back this when I speak, have a little conversation with respect to the free movement of people.
Okay.
But we, as natural-born Kittitians and Nevisians, need to get ourselves ready, not only to reap the benefits of what is happening in our country, but to reap the benefits of any development within CARICOM. Because if we are not ready, then whatever benefits are there, whether it is at home or within the wider CARICOM, we will lose out. And that is something that we have to pay specific attention to. The report also looked at tourism. It says a rebound in tourism has powered growth in the past 2 years. The economy expanded an estimated $3 5.4%. In 2023, after a growth of 8.8% in 2022, GDP is expected to return to pre-pandemic level this year, 2024. Higher commodity prices and shipping costs pushed average inflation to an estimated 3.6% in 2023 from 2.7% in 2022, despite fiscal measures to reduce the pass-through. The 2023 budget recorded a surplus of 1% of GDP thanks to the strong CBI performance and continued fiscal prudence. Because you see, it is important that when you read these, you look for these words, these action words. And there's never a time, firstly, in the first paragraph, when it is listing, it lists fiscal prudence in the first place. Now it ends with fiscal prudence. You know why? Because this is an important factor in us getting to where we are. And I just want, well, the projection is that given all of the variables acting in our favor, geothermal and all that, that they're looking for further growth up to 4.7% for 2024. And I would say that's a projection. But it is because of the prevailing conditions and circumstances and fiscal prudence why they feel comfortable to mention that figure as possible further growth. This is not as a result of happenstance or circumstance. This is as a result of careful planning. I want us to go, because I'm going to couple them, to the Human Development Report. And it says, St. Kitts emerged as the highest ranked Caribbean country in 2023-2024 Human Development Report released by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, on Wednesday. Well, that was the week when it came out. The UNDP report titled Breaking the Gridlock, Reimagining Cooperation in the Polarized World, provides a summary of measuring, reflecting a country's gross national income, per capita, education, and life expectancy. Those are the things it measures to determine this. It says, the reveals of a troubling trend, which is the rebound in the Global Human Development Index, HDI, which is projected to reach record heights in 2023 after steep declines during 2020 and 2021. But this progress is deeply uneven. Rich countries are experiencing record high levels of human development, while half the world, poorest countries, remain below their pre-crisis level progress. According to the report, the 193 countries surveyed, the Twin Island Federation, St. Kitts and Nevis, placed 51 or 51st with the HDA index in 2023, change of 0.006% from the 2021 figure. Now, this it's the first time that I can recall, and I'm not going to be held on that if somebody can prove otherwise, but I'm saying to the best of my knowledge, it's the first time that St. Kitts and Nevis has placed ahead of Barbados and Bahamas in this index. Again, that is not coincidental. That is not coincidental at all. Having regards to the fact that all of the other Caribbean countries had removed their travel restrictions in COVID before St. Kitts and Nevis. And when we took office, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, it was, St. Kitts was lower than the others because we had not yet begun to see the human development returning to our people. We were still in deep crisis because persons had no availability to jobs or increase in income or anything such as that. Now, Antigua Barbuda,
it's the next highest.
That's the next highest at 54. So we're talking about us 3 places above the next highest CARICOM member state. And by the way, this article is from the Guardian newspaper. Now, the thing about this is that it didn't happen again just because of circumstance or a fly-by-night situation. Some of the things that contributed to us getting there, one is an increase in minimum wage. Very, very, very important, Devonne. Because when a person's wages increase, when your minimum wages increase, it makes the people at the lowest end of your salary scale more economically viable. It increases their preparation for the future development, for the time when they retire, because of the increase, they will get a greater social security pension. That improves life expectancy because it makes people less stressful. And when did that happen? Under the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. And before it came to reality, of course the United Nations listens to what is being said on the road, and they knew that this administration somehow was not satisfied with anything less than 500. So they knew that even if 500 didn't come, there would have been a significant increase, up from 360. This is not conditions that were met there. This is because the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration took the decision to look after its people. The subvention for preschool, free tertiary level education.
All of these things have contributed to that.
But of course, you're talking about human development. And if more people have free access to an education, and if those who can't be captured for space reason by the government daycare and preschool level now have a greater subvention, it means that more of our young citizens would have access to an education, a formal education, at an earlier age. And now it has gone not just from there, but it has gone up to tertiary level, because tuition is free. the pressure to come out so that you have to go to work because your parent now have to go and pay tuition, which is going to be restrictive, isn't there any longer. Less stress, longer life expectancy, a greater ability to access education. All of these things. Now, who created that atmosphere? This president, Dr. Terence Drew, led at SKNLP administration. And the truth must be told. The truth must be told. Because these are the facts that has contributed to that. And so it is consistent. And this is the point I want to make with this HDR report. And it's online, people should access it. But this HDR report is consistent with the findings in the IMF Article 4 report. These are two entirely different organizations. One is the United Nations. The other one is the International Monetary Fund. But when you compare these two reports, there is great consistency. This is not coincidental. This is from proper planning, fiscal prudence, and manageable execution. And I'll be the first to say, it's not perfect, because it's not. But it is far better than what we had before.
Mr. McMahon, it is Mr. Edinburgh. I don't even know why. Mr. Edinburgh, it is 11:34. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we're going to look at the free movement.
Yes.
And relate it to the report or the reports that we've mentioned earlier, because I think there are similarities and there are areas that we can touch in both reports, IMF and the UNHI report, the HDR report, sorry, that will relate to different movements.
Of course.
Let's take this break and we will be right back.
Let's get to know you better. National Caribbean Insurance would like to know you better. Customers with life and health policies are kindly asked to visit our offices to update your information. Data captured would include your address, telephone number, and email address. Customers should also provide 2 valid photo IDs and a proof of address. Help us so that we can help you more effectively and efficiently. We serve, we protect, we satisfy. That's NCI. Let's get to know you better.
A Samsung tablet today.
Boy, what much madness is this?
Girl, Digicel is giving away a tablet a day for 20 days when you activate any Prime plan. Switch to Digicel, sign up for new home internet, or even when you pay a monthly bill in full. Tracy, where you going so fast?
I coming back. I go and make sure I qualify to win.
But Lord, you can dial *141 sign to activate plans or pay bills in the My Digicel app, or visit any Digicel store to sign up for new internet and switch. New winners are announced daily. It's madness in March. 20 Samsung tablets in 20 days.
A Samsung tablet today.
Simply more rewards and more value. Digicel, better together. Promotion ends March 2024.
Welcome back to the Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. If you're just tuning in, joining me in studio is Austin Edinburgh, Special Advisor in the Prime Minister's Office, and we are discussing the IMF report, the HDR report, and we'll be touching on the free movement of CARICOM nationals. And a quick recap on the IMF report, it mentioned that St. Kitts and Nevis continues to recover from the pandemic and the cost of living, and it has projected that the economy will strengthen by 4.7% in 2024, and that is supported by tourism, the acceleration of housing and public infrastructure, and investment in renewable energy. It also mentioned the rebound in the tourism sector. And as I have said and continue to say, tourism is the bread and butter of the Caribbean. And it is one of the areas that our people have been surviving off of for quite some time. Needless to say, there are other areas that we must continue to or should venture into and invest. We can't put all of our eggs into one basket, whether it be CBI or tourism. But tourism is rebounding or has rebounded, and the economy is expected, according to the IMF, to strengthen by 4.7%. Mr. Edinburgh.
Yes. I want to firstly read to you a message that was sent to me that is being highly circulated. It says, "It's about time the message is spread that this free movement is not for us." Let me read it again. And we have to understand what propaganda is, and that's why I said that to you. It's about time, and it was sent to me twice actually. It's about time the message is spread that this free movement is not for us. There's a concerted effort by politicians who are not in office, because because the people have expressed their views on it, to use this to get at the government. That is dangerous. I'll tell you why it is dangerous. Because the free movement of people has not just emerged. And let me read what I think caused the uproar. Because Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados, and who is the lead spokesperson on the free movement of people in CARICOM, spoke at the press conference. And here's what it says. "We are on target. CARICOM heads of government are expected to meet by middle of March for anticipated sign-off." But listen to the word, anticipated sign-off on the arrangements to facilitate the free movement of people. Nothing in that statement says that the free movement of people is going to begin then. It says on the arrangements to facilitate the free and full movement of CARICOM nationals by the end of that month, the Honorable Mia Mottley said. Because I wanted to read that part again that brings in the end of the month. But the opening part of the statement said that they are expected to meet on the 15th to speak on and perhaps agree on the issues to facilitate. So it is not the free movement of people, but rather the facilitation of it.
Right. How they're going to go about doing it.
Well, that is the thing. But because of what she said, and I'll read another portion of it. It says, the Prime Minister told the representatives of the media that the community is on track to the full mandate heads of government gave at the historical 50th meeting in Trinidad and Tobago in July last year for free and full movement of CARICOM nationals from March 30th, 2024. She affirmed that there are two outstanding matters that must be resolved before full free movement can be operationalized. You ain't hear nobody talking about that. But Mia Mottley pointed out that there are two matters. Now, of course, politics is a game of popularity. It's a popularity contest. And so, if you feel that your country, people in your country start talking, some people would react, as Gaston Brown did, in my humble opinion. He reacted. And he said what he said. But that was in keeping with what the Prime Minister of Barbados said, that there are two outstanding matters that must be resolved.
But the key things here, Mr. Edinburgh, is the fact that they're meeting to facilitate the arrangements, meaning that you have the Intergovernmental Task Force,
Exactly.
which is making the recommendations. So, as Mr. Vaughan said yesterday, March 31st, 2024 is not the date when all CARICOM member states or participating member states are going to open their doors and say, you have to set the arrangements and guidelines first. The second thing that I like to mention is the fact that the politicians who are not in office today are very much well aware of the topic of free movement of CARICOM nationals, because this has been in the pipeline for years.
Not only are they, and I will speak of St. Kitts and Nevis, not only are they aware, but they participated. I have something from the SKNIS, which was published in 2018. It says, Bastille St. Kitts, July 10th, 2018. Press unit of the Office of the Prime Minister. Dr. Timothy Harris was the Prime Minister then. But hear this. The article is captioned, CARICOM heads take significant step towards fast-tracking the implementation of the CSME. And the article goes on to say, last week heads of government of the different CARICOM member states reaffirmed their commitment to the full implementation of a single market and the free movement of people across the region through the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME. That's 2018.
So this is the same thing.
Oh.
That
There's hardly any difference to what Mayor Motley said. This is the point, and this is the hypocrisy.
It's the same thing.
There's hardly any difference to what Mayor Motley said. But I'll tell you significantly what happened in 2018 that's different to now. Professionals were allowed to move freely. That is, people with visas.
Right.
And skilled persons. That part of the regime was implemented. But further, every CARICOM national had to be given 6 months, not 6 weeks, not 6 days, 6 months, which is half a year once you come into your country. Those things were implemented in 2018. And the media said nothing. And I'm talking about St. Kitts and Nevis now. As a matter of fact, the only thing that came out from the government was this article. The then government did not prepare its people for what is coming now. 4 years they had. 4 years before they were removed from office when they agreed to this through Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, then Prime Minister.
It says here that heads of government have reaffirmed their commitment. And heads of government would include St. Kitts and Nevis.
Of course. But I'm saying, within that 4 years, if our people were prepared, we would not have been having this discussion today.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's because that was the time. And those 3 things that I told you were implemented after that meeting. The movement of professionals, persons with degrees. The movement of skilled persons. And the fact that you couldn't give a CARICOM national less than 6 months once they show up in your territory. But yet, no discussion was had with the people. Unlike now. And this is the point I want to get to. Because people seem to have wanted our Prime Minister, Dr. Terence True, to react to what Prime Minister Motley said. When the discussion began, our Prime Minister was still out of the island, had not returned because he went on to St. Lucia. It is normal that once he returns from a travel, he's going to have a roundtable discussion. And is it wrong for him to do the responsible thing of saying, no, and he has said that, so I can now say it. No, we want the data. We are not ruling it out. We are not against free movement, because free movement has been happening. We can't be against something that is happening already. But before we have the full complement of it, I would like to see the data so that I can make an informed decision after consultation with my people. What is so wrong with that? What is it that the persons who accepted changes, not just what the head said that they were now on board with and they're going to fast track it, changes were made 6 months. Before that, you could have decided one day. The immigration, even though you're coming from within CARICOM, before that, could have decided, no, one day. Now, based on that, they just had to stamp 6 months. That was a change. Never discussed with the people. And it's not to say I'm against it. I'm just saying that he didn't come back and have a discussion and a consultation. Degreed people, they could come, just move in, but you have to look. Once you have a job, you can set up residence. Skilled people as well. No discussion with the people. That was a change. But I tell you something. Knowing that full implementation would come, what he did not do is to begin the preparation of the people for it by having consultation. And Ambassador Vaughan has been mandated by this government, not by CARICOM, by this government to lead the discussions in it.
Mr. Edinburgh, we want to hear from the callers.
Yes.
And so we're going to open the phone lines now, 465-2555, for them to call and ask their questions. We don't have much time, but we'll see how many callers.
We'll take as many calls, and then I can sum it up unless something comes up urgently.
We have a caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Yes, good morning. And I just have, and greetings to both of you. I just have one quick question. Now that we are now discussing some of the ramifications and implications, has the government considered that the EC dollar is likely to be severely devalued, where our CARICOM ambassador yesterday mentioned there's only one CARICOM currency, and that is the EC dollar. But right now, it is 95% backed, as our governor of the central bank said, by foreign reserves. 95% backed, with a population in our central banking area of about 600,000 persons. When it is opened up to another 7 million, where their currencies are backed by so little, so that they are severely devalued, do you see the pressure on the EC dollar, and it is likely to be devalued? Thank you.
All right, caller. Thank you for your contribution. Let's take another call. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Martin Barrow.
Yes.
Listening to you. all these politicians speaking with forked tongues.
Beg your pardon. Speaking with what? I didn't hear that.
Forked tongues.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I listened to Mayor Mackley, yes, and the thing that bothered me the other day was in Barbados, and I went with some EC dollars, and they tell me the money ain't no good. They don't take it here. Honest to God. Now, here you're talking about the CBI. Have you listened to the Dominican president's statement that he made that the OECS CBI system is like in one body, that the prices won't vary in different islands? You listen to his statement about that?
Our Prime Minister said the same thing, so.
Caller,
Okay,
do you have a question? Because we want to take some more calls.
Yes, but last but not least, please, we got to be careful because it's humbugging us kitchens who move in abroad. We are more scrutinized more than before because we got cat saying is rat and rat saying is bat. People come here getting our passport and moving like us when they're in us. They're talawa.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution. Let's take this other caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
This is the first time I'm making a call to this program, and I have a lot of concern, but I really like to praise too. Now, I am.
Wait, caller, could you speak into the phone directly? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yes, I am directly to the phone. Okay. I am touching this topic on the environmental levy tax that is being levied on vehicles that are coming into the country. Now, government is continuous, and I don't know if the previous administration
caller, I'm having difficulties hearing you. You're dropping in and out, so perhaps you could call back later. But we'll soon wrap up, but I'm really having difficulties hearing you. Let's see if we can get this caller. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Edinburgh.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes, I listen to your program and so forth, right? And you touch a lot of expensive topics, right? But sometimes you need to let people get their voice out. Anyway, this is the same thing I was saying you use over there. It is time for citizens get up and fill the space. Take up your space in your country, that when whosoever come, you already have your space. But if you have the whole ground left open and people start to come and take up your space, you don't have a space to stand upon.
All right. Thank you so much for
your
contribution, caller, for your to the program. We have 4 minutes and we have to wrap up.
I understand.
Newscast.
Yes. Well, let me say this. I want to respond to the lady who spoke about the EC dollar being devalued. There's no threat to it being devalued from the free movement of people. While we are having free movement of people, we're not having a single state. The EC dollar would remain the currency as is, and it is considered the strongest currency in the Caribbean. Why? Even the Barbados in terms is pegged at 250 and we are pegged at 270. It is considered the strongest currency. And that is not because of more people. That is because you have 8 economies around it. Well, I think 7, because I think the BVI is not included. But you have a number of economies around it. And there has to be a unified, unanimous decision on any changes with the currency, not majority. That is what gives the EC dollar its strength, and it will continue.
And you said something very important there. You said single state. The free movement is not suggesting that we will all become one state.
No. And that's why I said to you, that's why I read what was said in the beginning. Now, in terms of our passports, again, let me say that free movement of people would put less pressure on the people in the St. Kitts to go get married to get a passport, because they wouldn't have the need to. And so therefore, because the difficulty when they get a passport, when they get citizenship, is that it can't just be taken away like that, you know. And you can ensure on residency that they pay the taxes, so that their renewal becomes a part of it, because there will be conditions. But if they are a citizen, then they have your passport, and they can go overseas and do what he thinks they will do. Well, I believe that free movement of people will put less pressure on our passport. Well, I'm not even going to go into the tax thing, because I'm not here to discuss tax. I'm not the tax man. You'll have to go to Inland Revenue to ask that. So maybe you need to bring Mr. Gifting. No, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah, quickly.
Because we are squeezed because of the entitlement attitude in the private sector in particular. The workforce, the Kittitian, natural-born Kittitian and divisions are squeezed into the middle. We have people coming in from the top. All of these companies, private companies, are employing non-nationals. And then we have the non-nationals working at the bottom, while we are contending for the middle. And we still have non-nationals in the middle. You know why? Because we feel entitled. And we are not preparing ourselves to make use of the upper opportunities. There are two reasons. And one of these days, Devonne, I want to come back with you, and we have a discussion about that.
Absolutely. We're out of time. Let me use this opportunity to say thank you for your contribution, and thank you, Mr. Edinburgh, for joining me here on today's edition of The Edge. Until next time, you guys stay safe and continue to enjoy the rest of your Thursday. You've been listening to The Edge for Thursday, March 21st, 2024. Coming up next is ZIZ Media Newscast. Stay tuned.
ZIZ Radio now presents the major newscast. Stories making the news locally, regionally, and internationally.